It started with a sound. Not a scream or a bang, just a soft, low buzzing. Like an old light fixture struggling to stay on, or a phone vibrating across a wooden table. Constant. Too quiet to catch during the day, but once the world went still, it crept in. I first noticed it 2 weeks ago. I'd just moved into a small rental house on the edge of town, a squat one-story thing surrounded by brush and thick patches of trees. Cheap place, nothing fancy. I took it because I was broke and needed quiet to work. I freelance, writing boring tech manuals mostly, so I just needed internet and a roof. The first night I chalked the buzzing up to tinnitus. Stress-induced or whatever. I lay in bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling, trying to tune it out. But it wasn't coming from inside me. I realized that fast. I could feel it, like a tremble in the floorboards, a subtle vibration in the mattress, pulsing just under everything. It seemed to come from beneath the house. By the third night, it was unmistakable. It started around 1:40 a.m., give or take a few minutes, and lasted for about 10 minutes. Then it just stopped. Like someone flipped a switch. I asked my landlord about it casually. Is there a generator or anything under the place? Pipes? Old wiring? He looked up from his phone and blinked at me like I'd asked if the house was haunted. No basement. Just a crawl space, he said. Nothing down there except dirt and maybe some raccoons. Raccoons that buzz? He snorted and went back to scrolling. After a week, the buzzing got louder. Not by much, just enough that I couldn't pretend it wasn't there. It had a weird pitch to it. Almost patterned? Not musical, not quite, but it wasn't random. And it didn't fade in or out. It just started and stopped like a perfectly timed machine. That's what started eating at me. I tried recording it on my phone, but every time I hit record, the noise didn't show up on the playback. Not even static. Just silence. I tried placing the phone directly on the floor, nothing. Just 10 minutes of absolute quiet. I don't know why, but that made it worse. I couldn't tell anyone. Not really. My sister would have just told me to get some fresh air, or maybe go on meds. My friends already thought moving out to the woods was weird. You're gonna get murdered out there. One of them joked on a group chat. Maybe she was right. I almost convinced myself to ignore it. But then, 4 nights ago, I woke up to something else. Not the buzzing this time. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, just under the floorboards. Crossing from one side of the house to the other. I live alone. And there is no basement. I didn't move. I couldn't. I lay there in the dark, holding my breath so hard my chest burned. The footsteps were faint, but steady. Like someone walking barefoot through sand. You know that soft, grainy shuffling sound? That's what I heard. Directly beneath my bed. I counted maybe 8, 9 steps before they stopped. Dead center under my room. Then silence. I stayed still for what felt like an hour, muscles tight, ears straining for the smallest sound. But nothing came. No buzz. No more footsteps. Just silence so complete I could hear my own heartbeat thudding behind my eyes. Eventually I sat up, flicked on the lamp, and stared at the floor. I had to see. I had to know if something was under there. I grabbed the flashlight from my nightstand drawer, something I'd thrown in there for when the power went out, and made my way out to the side yard, where the crawlspace entrance was. The hatch was around the back, tucked behind some dead brush. I'd never opened it before. The padlock was rusty, dangling open like someone had already been there. I honestly couldn't remember if it had even been locked before. I took a deep breath, knelt down, and pulled the door open. The air that came out wasn't just musty, it was wrong. It had that cold, damp reek of mold and rot, but beneath it, there was something sharper. Something metallic. I clicked the flashlight on. Nothing. Just packed dirt, cobwebs, some plastic bags. No sign of animals, no nests or burrows. Just space. A few cinder blocks for support, and pipes running overhead. I scanned the beams slowly across every inch, heart hammering in my throat. Still nothing. Then, just as I started to lower the light, I saw them. Footprints. Not paw prints. Human. Barefoot. Pressed deep into the dirt. They led from the back wall straight toward the area under my bedroom. And they were fresh. I scrambled back, slammed the hatch shut, and didn't sleep a second that night. I kept all the lights on. Sat in the living room gripping a fire poker like an idiot. The next day, I called the landlord again. "Told you, man," he said, more annoyed than anything. "Nothing under there but dirt." I told him about the footprints. He laughed. "You sure you didn't get into something out there? People do mushrooms and all kinds of crap in those woods. I found a tent once with a goat's skull hanging in a tree." "You're not listening." "I am. And I'm telling you, you're spooking yourself." He hung up. The weird thing is, during the day, the house feels normal. It's even kind of cozy. Nothing moves, no weird sounds. Just wind in the trees and the occasional deer wandering into the yard. But every night, since the footprints, the steps have come back. Same time. Same pattern. Always under my room. And the buzzing? It's starting earlier now. I started sleeping in the living room. Well, trying to sleep. Between the buzzing and the footsteps, my brain was running like a cracked-out security camera. I'd jolt awake at the smallest sound, the fridge kicking on, a branch tapping the window, even my own breathing. Every creak made me jump. But that third night in the living room, something different happened. There was a knock. Not at the front door. Not the back either. It came from beneath the floor. Just one sharp, deliberate knock, like a fist pounding wood. Right under the couch where I was lying. I froze mid-blink. My skin prickled with this weird, electric dread. I sat up slowly, heart racing so fast it felt like it was skipping beats. And then I heard it again. Knock. This time closer to the wall. Same sound. Same force. Not muffled like an animal scurrying around. Not random like pipes clanging. This was intentional. And then, nothing. I waited until sunrise before I moved. Once the light started bleeding in through the windows, I crept to the crawl space again. Opened it. Flashlight in hand. The footprints were still there. Same direction. Same size. But now there were new ones. Off to the left this time, under the living room. A different path, pressed deeper into the dirt. Like whoever, or whatever, made them had gained weight. Or had been standing in one place for a long time. I started feeling sick after that. Not just scared, physically sick. Stomach turning, head buzzing, like I'd been breathing in mold or fumes. I started wondering if the smell under the house was more than just mildew. What if there was some kind of chemical leak? Something toxic seeping up from below? I bought a CO detector. Put it in every room. Nothing. I even brought out my laptop and mic, tried to record everything at night. Sat there with headphones on, watching the sound levels spike during the buzzing. But every time I hit playback, same result. Dead silence. No noise. No readings. No waveform at all. Almost like it wasn't sound at all. That night, after the knock, I barely slept. Just sat there with the poker again, staring at the window. I thought I saw movement outside once, just past the tree line, something tall and still. But when I flicked on the porch light, it was gone. No footprints. No broken branches. Just the feeling that something had been there. The next morning, I did something desperate. I posted online. A local subreddit. Just a short, vague post. Moved into a rental by the woods. Strange noises under the house at night. Footsteps. Buzzing. Nothing on recordings. Anyone else experienced this? I didn't expect any replies. But I got one. Just one. It said, "Don't go under there again. It doesn't like being seen." I read that comment at least 20 times. Don't go under there again. It doesn't like being seen. No username. Just deleted. No upvotes. No replies. Then, maybe 10 minutes later, the comment vanished. Just gone. Like it was never there. I refreshed the thread. Checked my notifications. Nothing. My inbox was empty. I started to wonder if I'd imagined it, but I hadn't. I'd taken a screenshot. I sat there staring at it, heartbeat thudding in my neck like a slow, heavy drum. I didn't leave the house that day. Didn't shower. Didn't eat much either. Every few hours I'd check the crawl space again, never going in, just opening the hatch and shining the flashlight into the dark like a coward. The footprints were still there, of course. More now. Crisscrossing, overlapping. Some looked smaller, others, larger. That night, the buzzing started at 1:12 a.m. I remember the time exactly, because I was sitting on the couch, staring at my phone, when every light in the house dimmed for half a second. Not off, just dimmer, like something massive had sucked all the energy out of the grid. Then the vibration began. It was stronger this time. I could feel it in my teeth, in the base of my skull. I stood up and the floor felt like it was breathing, like something was pushing up from below, expanding and contracting with a slow, awful rhythm. I backed toward the kitchen, eyes wide, scanning the floor like I expected it to crack open. Then came the footsteps. Not shuffling this time, running. From one end of the house to the other, fast and heavy, as if someone were sprinting just beneath the floorboards. The entire house groaned from the impact. Picture a massive dog, or a man on all fours, scrabbling through dirt and wood with impossible speed. I nearly dropped the fire poker. When it stopped, it was dead quiet. Not even the buzzing anymore. My ears rang from the sudden stillness. I swear I could hear the blood moving through my veins. Then came the voice. Muffled. Barely audible. But it was under the house. A dry, rasping whisper that said something like, "You saw me." I bolted out the front door barefoot, into the cold night. Didn't care. Ran into the yard and didn't stop until I hit the tree line. I stood there, shivering, sweat freezing on my back, watching the house like it was on fire. But nothing happened. The windows were dark. The house was still. No noise. No movement. It stayed that way for 10 minutes. Then the porch light flicked on by itself. I went back inside after dawn. The air was different. Heavier. Warmer, like the house was sweating. I found fresh dirt on the living room floor, in the shape of a long, wide smear. Like something had crawled out from underneath and dragged itself across the hardwood. I wanted to believe I was losing my mind. I did. I tried everything, rationalizing, Googling wildlife behavior, checking carbon monoxide levels again. I even called animal control, anonymously, and asked what kind of animals could tunnel under a house that fast. The guy on the phone said, "Maybe foxes. You should see signs of digging though." I asked him if it was possible for a person to live under a house without being detected. He laughed. But there was something in his voice that changed when I pressed him, like I wasn't the first person to ask. He got quiet. Told me to call the cops if I thought someone was under there. And that's when I realized I hadn't even considered that. Calling the police. Why hadn't I? Why hadn't that thought even entered my mind? Like some part of me already knew it wouldn't matter. Still, that night I called. Told them I thought someone might be hiding under the house. Could be dangerous. Said I heard them knocking. They sent a deputy out around 10:30. Young guy. Looked tired. Resting his hand on his belt like he didn't want to be there. He walked the perimeter with a flashlight, squatted down by the crawl space, and opened it up. I stood behind him, arms crossed, waiting for his reaction. "See anything?" I asked. He didn't respond right away. Just knelt there, his flashlight beam still and steady, aimed into the dark. Then he muttered, "Huh? What?" He stood up. Wiped his hands on his pants. "Probably raccoons," he said. "I'd call an exterminator. But the footprints. They'll check for that. Nothing dangerous under there. No sign of break-in, no damage. Just some dirt and old food wrappers." I frowned. Food wrappers? He didn't answer. Just nodded at me, muttered something about paperwork, and left. I didn't sleep again that night. Because after he left, I checked the crawl space myself. There were no wrappers. But there was something new. Scrawled into the dirt, just beneath the entrance. Stop looking. I didn't go back in the house right away. I just stared at the words carved into the dirt. Stop looking, trying to make sense of the shape of the letters. They weren't scratched with a stick or etched by fingers. They were perfect. Uniform. Each letter exactly the same height and depth, like someone had stamped them in with a metal press. Except the soil under there was soft. No prints around the message. No tool marks. Nothing. I stood up and slammed the hatch shut, my hands shaking. That was the last straw. I couldn't keep acting like this was some messed up squirrel problem. I had to get someone else inside the house. Someone to confirm I wasn't cracking up. So I called Nolan. We weren't super close. He was a guy I'd worked with freelance a few years back, one of those jack-of-all-trades types who did sound design and home inspections on the side. More importantly, Nolan was practical. Analytical. The kind of guy who didn't buy into ghosts or cryptids or internet rabbit holes. He showed up that afternoon with a backpack full of gear, decibel meters, cameras, ground-penetrating radar. He even brought a little robot drone with a camera on it, the kind they use for ductwork and crawl spaces. I explained everything. The buzzing. The footsteps. The voice. I showed him the screenshot of the Reddit comment and the footprints under the house. He just nodded, calm and skeptical, but open. Let's get a look under there, he said. We walked to the back of the house. But when I pointed to the hatch, there was nothing there. Just unbroken siding. No hatch. No hinges. No rusted lock. Just solid, sealed foundation. I stopped dead. What? I muttered. No, it's right here. Nolan looked at me, frowning. What is? I dropped to my knees and started scraping at the dirt like a maniac. There had to be something, some trace of it. But there was no wood. No frame. No depression in the ground. Nothing. The hatch was gone. Like it had never existed. I swear to God, it was here yesterday, Nolan. I opened it. I went down. There was writing, footprints. He squatted beside me. Hey, listen to me. You're not crazy, all right? But there's no access hatch here. Not even sealed up. The foundation's poured straight through. There's no opening. No crawl space. Bullshit. He opened his backpack, pulled out the radar device, and set it up against the wall. It sent out little pulses, measuring voids, pockets, empty spaces in the structure. He scanned the base of the house slowly, moving across the wall with mechanical precision. Then he stopped. His expression changed. What? I asked. He showed me the screen. Beneath the house, beneath where my bedroom and living room would be, was a space. Roughly the size of a person, lying down. Not a crawl space. Not a tunnel. Just one perfect hollow. And inside it, something was moving. Nolan stared at the screen, visibly unsettled. That's not how radar anomalies look. We didn't say much after that. Nolan packed up quickly. Said he'd analyze the data and get back to me. I asked if he believed me now. He didn't answer. That night, I didn't go inside. I sat in my car, parked in the yard, watching the house from a distance. At 1:08 a.m., the lights in the kitchen flickered on. Then the bedroom light. Then the hallway. One by one, every light in the house turned on by itself. And then I saw something in the window. It was me, staring out from the living room. Only, I was still in the car. I sat in the car paralyzed. Engine off. Lights off. The only sound was the soft ticking of the cooling engine and the dry hum of cicadas somewhere deep in the woods. The version of me standing in the window didn't move. It just watched. Not with curiosity. Not with malice. Just intent. Even from across the yard, I could see the angle of its head was wrong. Tilted just slightly too far. Its shoulders a bit too square. Like someone trying very hard to stand like me, but forgetting the small human imbalances that make us real. I wanted to believe it was a trick of the light. A reflection. But the real nail in the coffin? I was wearing different clothes. I was in a hoodie and jeans. But the thing in the window was wearing the old gray thermal shirt I'd thrown in the laundry hamper 3 days ago. Same shirt. Same stains. Same frayed sleeve. It was like someone had broken in, gone through my stuff, and dressed up as me. Or worse. It stepped back out of sight. The lights in the house all turned off at once. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles cracked. Every instinct I had screamed at me to drive. Get out. Leave the house. Leave the state. But I didn't. I don't know why. Instead, I sat there until sunrise. When the world felt a little less unhinged, I got out of the car and slowly approached the front door. Everything looked the same. Quiet. Still. But the moment I stepped inside, I could feel it, that invisible shift, like the air itself had been rewired. The house was off somehow. I checked the windows, the closets, under the bed. Nothing. No one. I opened the laundry hamper. The gray thermal shirt was gone. I called Nolan, desperate to ground myself in reality. He didn't pick up. No voicemail. Just rang, then silence. So I went online. Read it. My thread was gone. Not downvoted. Not deleted by mods. Just gone. Like it had never existed. But someone had messaged me. A user I didn't recognize, /found in the woods. No posts. No history. The message was short. Check the attic. If you remember it. I froze. Because that house didn't have an attic. Or at least, I didn't think it did. I'd looked when I moved in. No hatch, no ladder, nothing. Low ceilings. Flat roof. No space for one. But the message, it scraped at something in the back of my brain. A memory I couldn't quite catch. I stood in the hallway, staring up at the ceiling. Nothing there. Then I saw it. A faint square outline, nearly invisible against the plaster. No string, no panel. Just the barest seam above the hallway closet. I dragged a chair over. Reached up. My fingers brushed a latch I swore hadn't been there before. With a creak and a puff of dust, the panel dropped open. And a ladder slid down. The air that spilled out was cold. Stale. Not like the damp warmth from the crawl space. This was sharp. Still. Dead. I climbed slowly, one rung at a time. My flashlight barely cut through the black. The beams above me were thick with dust. Spiderwebs hung like thin veins. The air felt thick, like it hadn't been breathed in years. But it had been. Because there were footprints in the dust. Bare. Human. Leading across the beams to the far corner of the attic, where the roof angled low. I crawled after them, heart in my throat, ducking beneath hanging wires and wooden crossbeams. That's when I saw it. A mirror. Old. Tall. The kind with a wooden frame and ornate carvings, like something from an antique shop. It sat upright in the corner of the attic, half covered by a sheet. The footprints stopped in front of it. I don't know what I expected. My reflection, maybe? Some trick of the light. Some explanation that would make everything click. But what I saw in the mirror wasn't me. Not exactly. It looked like me. Same face. Same eyes. Same tired expression. But it wasn't moving right. When I blinked, it didn't. When I tilted my head slightly, it stayed still. Like it was waiting for me to stop moving. Then, slowly, it smiled. And raised its hand to the glass. That's when I saw the symbol. Carved into its palm. Shallow red. A circle, split down the middle, with lines branching off like broken roots. I stumbled back, slipped on the beam, and nearly fell through the ceiling. When I scrambled back to the ladder, I didn't look again. I slammed the hatch shut behind me. Locked it with a deadbolt I installed myself that same day. But the worst part. Later that night, as I sat in the living room trying to calm down, I glanced at the hallway wall. The outline of the attic hatch was gone. No seam. No panel. Just smooth, unbroken ceiling. Like it had never been there at all. The attic hatch was gone. I stood in the hallway staring up at where it had been just hours ago, jaw clenched, heart tapping an irregular beat against my ribs. It wasn't just gone, it was erased. Seamless drywall. Fresh paint. Like it had never been touched by hands or hinges. Like it had never existed. I didn't know what to do anymore. I checked every corner of the house again. I tore apart the hallway closet, knocked on every inch of the ceiling with a broom handle like some desperate lunatic. Nothing. Solid. Silent. I started to cry. Not sobbing. Just quiet, helpless tears sliding down my face while I stared at that flat ceiling and realized I had no idea what was real anymore. But something had changed in me. I wasn't scared the same way I had been. There was no panic left, just this steady, hollow dread. Like I was already in the thing's mouth and the teeth had started to close. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out a notebook. I started sketching the layout of the house, every wall, every room, every place I'd heard the footsteps. And the more I drew, the more I realized something wasn't right. The measurements didn't line up. The living room wall was too thick. The hallway seemed longer than the exterior of the house allowed. The bedroom closet jutted out oddly into space that didn't seem to exist when viewed from the outside. I grabbed the measuring tape. Spent the next hour pacing through each room, double-checking every wall, comparing it to the outside dimensions. It didn't add up. There was extra space. Not a lot. Inches here. A foot there. But enough to mean something. Enough to mean that the house was bigger on the inside. I tore out the bedroom closet shelves. Just ripped them out, drywall and all. There was dead space behind them, a narrow, coffin-like gap between the studs that ran along the length of the wall. And in that gap, carved into the wooden frame, was a map. Not a full map. Not roads or landmarks. Just a floor plan, an outline of the house as it shouldn't be. With extra rooms. Corridors I'd never seen. A spiral symbol scratched into the center of what should have been the hallway. I stared at it for what felt like forever. Then I felt the buzzing. Low. Vibrating through the floor again. But now it was pulsing up, like something moving vertically. Like something climbing. I backed out of the closet, heart hammering. The lights flickered. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text. No number. Just gray text on a black screen. "You've been inside it the whole time." I dropped the phone. Everything started to unravel after that. Doors started appearing in places they hadn't been. A narrow one behind the bathroom mirror. Another tucked into the back of a kitchen cabinet, no knob, just flush with the wood. I opened one and found a brick wall. Opened another, and behind it was a black void. No sound. No air. Just a feeling, like staring into the eye of something that had never been human. I closed that one fast. And then, the dreams started. Not nightmares. Visions. Too clear to be dreams. I closed my eyes and suddenly I was in that mirror attic again, standing in front of myself. Only now, there were others. Behind my reflection. Thin, pale figures with no eyes, crouched and waiting in the shadows like they were listening for a cue. Sometimes I'd wake up with blood in my nose. Once, I woke up facing the wrong way in bed, sheets perfectly undisturbed. The worst dream was 2 nights ago. I was sitting at the kitchen table, same as always, but outside the windows it was pitch black, no trees, no stars. Just nothingness. The table was covered in old Polaroids. All of them were pictures of me, asleep in bed. In some, the angle was from the closet. In others, from above, like from the attic that didn't exist. One photo had a date scribbled on the bottom, tomorrow. When I woke up, the photo was in my hand. The same exact image. Same angle. Only now, I noticed something I hadn't before. A figure standing in the background, just inside the bedroom door. I couldn't make out its face. Just the outline, tall, narrow, unnaturally straight. I haven't slept since. Last night, around 3 a.m., I heard scratching behind the hallway walls. Like something walking inside the drywall. Slow. Steady. Moving toward the bedroom. I sat on the floor, back against the closet door, holding a kitchen knife and a flashlight. The flashlight died. The knife didn't help. Eventually, the scratching stopped. But just before it did, I heard it again. That same whisper from before. But clearer this time. Like it was right beside me, inside the wall. It said, "You opened the wrong door." I didn't leave the house the next morning. Couldn't. Not because I was trapped, but because the outside had changed. I first noticed it when I opened the front door and looked out at the yard. Something about the sky was off. It wasn't the wrong color, it was the right color, technically. Pale blue. A little overcast. But it felt painted on. The clouds didn't move. The trees didn't sway. There was no wind, no birdsong. No sound. It was like staring into a still image. I stepped onto the porch, and immediately felt it, that buzz again, this time under my feet. The boards were warm. Almost alive. Like the house was trying to draw me back in. I turned to look at the front door and froze. It was closed. I hadn't touched it. I lunged forward, grabbed the knob, and it opened easily. But the moment I stepped back inside, the world outside went black. Like someone turned off a stage light. Total void. No sky. No yard. Just absolute, sucking darkness through every window. That's when I realized. The house decides when I can leave. I've tried every door. Every window. Tried breaking the glass with a chair. Nothing gives. It's like the rules of physics are suggestions here. I even took a hammer to the drywall. Ripped open a section in the hallway. There were no studs. No insulation. Just more wall behind it. Like the house was layers deep, shell after shell after shell. I checked my phone. No signal. No Wi-Fi. No missed calls. Just the same 4 bars, full battery, and an eternal searching. The only thing that still worked? The camera. And that's when I got an idea. I took a video of myself walking through the house. Every room. Every corner. Then played it back. What I saw chilled me to the marrow. In the background of almost every clip, in the edge of a mirror or just behind a half-closed door, there he was. Me. Watching. Waiting. Standing a little too still. Breathing just a little too slow. Like he knew he was being watched but didn't care. In one clip, as I passed the bathroom mirror, I saw his hand press against the glass from the inside. The house has been splitting me, I think. Peeling off parts of me and growing them like fungus in the walls. Making copies. But here's the worst part. Tonight is the date from the photo. The one labeled tomorrow. Which means something's coming. Something that's been planning this longer than I've even known it existed. And as the hours tick by, I feel it. This shift in the air, this coiling tension. Like the house is holding its breath. At 1:02 a.m. it begins. Not the buzzing. Not the knocking. The hum. Lower. Deeper. It isn't mechanical this time. It's human. A chorus of voices humming the same note, vibrating through the walls like they're inside them. Hundreds of them. All in unison. Low and mournful and endless. Then the lights go out. One by one. Room to room. I light a candle. It barely helps. Shadows press in from the corners like wet fingers. And then, from the bedroom. The sound of footsteps. Not under the floor. Inside the room. I grab my phone. Open the camera. Turn it toward the hall. It's me. Standing just outside the door. Head tilted. Wearing the gray thermal. A new red mark carved into his face. A perfect circle around the mouth. He doesn't move. Doesn't blink. just stares into the lens, and says in my voice perfectly, "Time to sleep now. I'll take it from here." I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen, watching myself, him, standing there in the hall, staring back through the phone's lens with that carved red circle around his mouth. He never moved. Not once. Like a still frame that breathed. But then the screen started to flicker. Not like a camera glitch. It was rhythmic, pulse, 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 synchronized with the hum that still shook the walls like the house was holding in a scream. And in between the flickers, he wasn't alone. Figures. Behind him. Too many to count. Pale and angular. No eyes. All facing me. Each one had that same circle carved into the face. Some had two. One had three, forming a grotesque mouthless smile that nearly split its head in half. The screen went black. I dropped the phone. Ran. But where do you run when you're inside something that doesn't follow the rules? Every hallway bent wrong. Every turn took me back to the same place. I opened a door to what should have been the bathroom and found the attic again. Only this time, it was wrong. Bigger. Endless. The mirror was gone, but in its place, stretched along the far wall like a mural, was a portrait of me. Dozens of me. Each one slightly different. One was crying. One was sleeping. One was missing half its skull. One looked like it had been flayed open and put back together all wrong, arms stitched across its chest like a wax figure melting in reverse. And above them all, written in that same perfect lettering, "The Watcher must learn." I stumbled back into the hall. The walls pulsed. The floor rippled under my feet like skin. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Then I heard the voice again, no longer a whisper. It came from inside the walls. Not him. Not the copy. The house. "We made you. We watched. You grew like a root in soft meat. Now the harvest begins." I clutched my ears and screamed. Ran blindly, hit the stairs, only there shouldn't have been stairs. I was in a one-story house. But the house wasn't the house anymore. It was a loop. A structure that folded in on itself. A maze of rooms that didn't exist, peeling away the inside of me layer by layer. At one point I swear I passed my own bedroom, fully intact, only the bed was made with me lying in it. Eyes open. Watching me. I tried to smash a window, my fists broke against solid glass. No cracks. No give. The buzzing came back then. Louder than ever. From below. From above. From inside. I screamed again and threw myself at the wall. It gave. Like paper. And behind it was another room. The Watcher room. That's what I call it now. It was small. Claustrophobic. Lit by a single bare bulb swinging slowly like something had just left. The walls were lined with old televisions, CRT sets, dusty and humming, each one flickering with static. And then they turned on. All of them. Dozens of screens showing my life. My childhood. My college dorm. My old apartment. All from odd angles, like from the ceiling or the corner of a dark room. Surveillance footage that couldn't exist. One screen showed me brushing my teeth last week. Another showed me sitting at this very kitchen table, head in my hands. And the last one. It showed right now. Me, standing in the Watcher room, staring at the screen. And behind me, on the screen, he stepped into view. Not me. Not the first copy. Something older. Twisted. Elongated. Wearing pieces of my skin like clothes that didn't quite fit. The face was all wrong, my features stitched into a circle. Eyes too wide. Mouth sewn shut. I turned around. Nothing there. But the buzzing was inside me now. I could feel it rattling in my bones, in my teeth, in the roots of my spine. And somewhere, above or below or inside the walls, the voice spoke one final time. "You are ready." There's no time in the house anymore. No clocks. No sun. Just the hum and the dark and the soft shuffle of something moving behind the walls. I don't know how long I've been here. Hours? Days? The phone's battery is still at 100%. It hasn't dropped once since that night. Like everything else, it's stuck in a moment that never ends. I haven't eaten. Haven't slept. But I'm not hungry. I'm not tired. My body keeps going like it doesn't belong to me anymore. Or maybe it never did. I think I understand now. This house, whatever it is, it's a filter. It takes you, piece by piece. Memories. Movements. Habits. And it builds copies. Not crude imitations. Perfect ones. Versions of you that obey. That don't question. That fit. I was the anomaly. I saw too much. I asked too many questions. I opened doors that weren't supposed to be opened. So the house made a choice. It didn't just trap me, it replaced me. Because someone, something, is out there now, walking around in my life. I know because I saw the final screen again. The one in the watcher room. It turned itself on this morning. Just lit up, humming softly. And on the screen? My apartment. My old one, before the rental. Clean. Normal. Someone was sitting at my desk. Typing. Same haircut. Same clothes. Same posture. Then the camera shifted, like the angle moved, and I saw his face. Mine. Perfectly mine. But wrong in the eyes. No recognition. Just cold stillness. And on the screen, behind him, was another me. Sitting quietly on the couch. Then another. And another. 3. 4. All versions of me. Just waiting. Then the screen flickered off. Now the house is quiet. Too quiet. The hum is gone. The footsteps stopped. There's a door now, at the end of the hall. One I've never seen. It's open. Just a sliver. But it smells like fresh air. Pine trees. Dirt. It smells like outside. I should be afraid. I should run the other way. But I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not sure I even remember how to be. Maybe I'm not the original anymore. Maybe I'm one of them. Or maybe they were all parts of me. The parts one ignored. The parts one shed. The shadows that followed every decision I made until they grew teeth and names and bodies. I'm walking toward the door now. I don't know what's on the other side. A road? A field? Another version of my life? Maybe I'll wake up in my bed. Maybe you'll see me in the mirror. Or maybe, just maybe, you'll hear a knock at your door late one night. And when you open it, you'll see me. Smiling. Tilting my head just a little too far. And you'll know the house has picked you next.